Let's be honest, our online world feels like it's in a bit of a crisis. We're dealing with this tangled mess of youth mental health, crazy political polarization, and disinformation everywhere you look. But what if the big solutions everyone's talking about are actually aimed at the wrong targets? What if we're solving the wrong problem entirely? And this isn't some niche issue affecting a few people. We're talking about a near universal experience, especially for young people. I mean, up to 95% of teens say they use social media, and more than a third of them say they use it almost constantly. This is literally the water they're swimming in. And look, the alarm bells are being rung at the highest levels. The US Surgeon General has flat out declared a public health crisis. And he's being really clear. This isn't a failure of parenting. This is about powerful technologies being rolled out without nearly enough thought given to safety. So, okay, the problems are obvious. They're urgent. So naturally, we've reached for a kind of first aid kit of solutions. Let's take a look at the two big ones that are on the table right now. First up, the one you've definitely heard about, the idea of just banning a specific platform. And of course, the poster child for this whole approach is the proposed ban on TikTok. So the thinking behind this from lawmakers is all about these big, scary national security fears, right? That a foreign adversary could get their hands on US user data, or that they could control what we see to push propaganda. It's really framed as a response to a clear and present danger. On the surface, that sounds pretty straightforward. Problem, solution, done. But with any simple answer to a super complex problem, you really have to ask, what happens next? What are the ripple effects we're not thinking about? And this is where it gets really interesting, because you see the huge gap between the goal and the reality. The idea is to protect US users, but what happens? They just move to other similar platforms. It also does absolutely nothing about data harvesting by our own domestic companies. Plus, it immediately gets hit with legal challenges, saying it threatens a massive public space for free speech. The problem doesn't go away, it kind of just moves next door. All right, so let's shift gears to the second big idea. This one is really gaining steam in states all over the country. Laws that would make you prove your age to get online. And, you can't argue with the goal here. The whole point of laws like the Kids Online Safety Act, or KOSA, is to create a safer digital world for kids, shield them from the worst stuff, and legally require platforms to protect them. Sounds great. It really does sound good in theory. But again, we've got to pull on that thread and ask about the trade-offs. What are we, as a society, giving up to get this promised safety? And wow, this slide just lays out the hidden danger perfectly. To keep kids safe, we're basically asking every single adult to upload really sensitive data, like a driver's license or a face scan. This creates these massive, centralized treasure troves of data that are just begging to be hacked. And all this, well, any tech-savvy kid can probably just use a VPN to get around it anyway. The solution creates a huge new risk for everyone, and it might not even work. So if banning platforms and verifying age are just bandages on a really deep wound, it kind of begs the question, right? Have we completely misdiagnosed the illness? Are we so focused on the symptoms that we're just ignoring the actual disease? Okay, look at this. This right here is the absolute heart of the issue. Our political debates, our policy focus, it's all over here on the left side, on the symptoms. We're talking about foreign trolls, bad posts, individual bad actors. But the actual research, the science is pointing over here, to the disease. It's not about the individual pieces of content. It's about the entire architecture of the platforms. It's about the algorithms designed to amplify outrage and the conditions like anonymity that change how we behave. So let's actually dig into that disease, because at the heart of it is this powerful and, for the most part, invisible engine that is shaping our entire online world: algorithmic amplification. Now, a totally groundbreaking study in the journal Science gave us the first real causal proof of how this whole thing works. The researchers zeroed in on something they called AAP content. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically any post that stirs up hatred for the other political side or pushes anti-democratic ideas. And the way they did this was just brilliant. They built a browser extension that could actually intercept and re-rank a user's feed on X, Twitter, in real time. So they didn't add or remove any content. They just changed what the algorithm showed people first. For one group, they turned the volume down on that polarizing APA content. For another, they turned it up. And the results? Whoa, they were stunningly clear. When people saw less hostile stuff, they actually felt warmer toward the opposing political party. When they saw more, they felt colder. The key thing here is the users were the same, the content available was the same. The only thing that changed was the algorithm's ranking, and people's political attitudes moved right along with it. It's a direct causal link. But hold on, because this is the part that should honestly give you chills. Almost 3/4 of the people in the study had no idea their feeds were being manipulated. They didn't notice any difference at all, and that proves that these incredibly powerful algorithmic effects are happening beneath the surface, shaping how we think and feel without us even knowing it. So if this engine of harm is so powerful and so subtle, why isn't more being done to fix it? Well, the answer really comes down to one single incredibly controversial law that basically built the modern internet as we know it. You have to go back to the 90s. Back then, a platform called Prodigy got punished by a court because it was trying to clean up its forums. It created this moderator's dilemma. If you try to be a good guy, you get held liable. So Congress passed Section 230 to protect these Good Samaritan platforms. But then, the court started interpreting that law so broadly that it became this near-total immunity shield, protecting platforms not just from bad posts, but from the harms caused by their own fundamental design choices. Okay, so this brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation. If we've been using the wrong medicine to treat the symptoms, what does a real, evidence-based prescription actually look like? Well, real solutions get at the actual mechanisms of harm. They stop obsessing over where a post comes from and start looking at coordinated manipulative behavior, even if it's domestic. They demand we open up the black box of these recommendation algorithms and give researchers the access they need to see what's going on, kind of like Europe is already doing. The entire focus has to shift from playing whack-a-mole with bad content to fundamentally redesigning the architecture that promotes radicalization in the first place. So here's where we are. For years, our digital policies have been stuck in this reactive loop, just chasing symptoms while the underlying disease just keeps getting worse. Studies like the one in Science give us the hard evidence we need to finally change course. So the real question for all of us is, what's it going to take to finally build an internet that's healthy and safe? Not by luck, but by its very design.